Hey guys, welcome back. So, several days ago, I had a client that reached out. They are just about to start shopping, and one of the questions they asked is, "Hey Joe, been following your newsletter, been following your YouTube and your market update. I know in general the market is bad. I know in general the market is coming down in terms of price, but you also said that there are some product types that is actually faring a lot better than others." They want to know what that product type is at what price points. The reason why is because they are still kind of open in regards to where they want to go and where they can go, and they want to find out which market is maybe faring a little bit better in regards to sales to active ratio or closer towards the seller's market, so they can better prepare their expectations, and they can also better prepare if they want to get a deal. They need to be focusing on the ones that's maybe not faring as much. So we sat down and we did this exercise together, and I told them the best way to look at this is what we mentioned through sales and active ratio. And as a quick reminder for everybody listening, because we're going to be going through this together, for sales and active ratio, anything under 12% is a buyer's market, especially if sustained for a long time. Anything between 12 to 20% is a balanced market, and anything over 20% is what we call seller's market. So with that being said, we sat down, we really drive into every single product type at different kind of price points to really figure out exactly what we're dealing with in regards to the market. So let me bring this out to the screen right now. Just very quickly, bear with me here. So what I have on the screen here is the sales to active ratios, and I'm gonna do two rounds. So this first round is between Richmond, Vancouver East, Burnaby, and Coquitlam. The reason why is I find like these price points are relatively generally similar, and these are what we call interchangeable cities. Like, some people when they're looking at Burnaby, they'll look at Richmond and they'll look at Vancouver East at the same time. So without further ado, let's kind of get right into it. What I have here is the sales to active chart let's start with detached. For all price ranges. So in Richmond, you can see, not great. Actually, most of them are not great, with the best performing one being Vancouver East sitting at 13.6%. Now, what's really interesting here is, and what we decided to do is we started to go through the numbers. We decided to be like, okay, we understand housing in general is weak, but what if I want to look at something that's a starter product? So what we decided to do is we decided to make a distinction between the price points, and one of the things that we decided to do is do this. And then we did this. And then lastly, because they're first-time home buyers, they wanted me to check on this. Okay, now you have all these different price ranges. So let's take a look at how things change based on the price points for detached houses. Now let's go under $2 million. Once we go under $2 million, you'll see Burnaby becomes a seller's market, Vancouver East becomes a seller's market, with Richmond and Coquitlam both being on balanced market, with Richmond just being slightly weaker. Now, this is $2 million and less. And now, of course, being first-time home buyer, they want to see what happens if I go even less than that. And look at this. Everything becomes a seller's market. Everything, even Richmond at 22%. And of course, we have Burnaby shooting at 36%, meaning that this is deep into the seller's market. And here's the funny thing. We're like, okay, seems like if we go really low price, we're going to be competing. How about the other range? If we go a little bit higher, what would we expect? And look at the sales to active ratio. Oh my God, Coquitlam, you're at 4%. Richmond, 7%. You're not faring all that much better. So what are you getting? Like, what did we get out of this? Is yes, housing in general, like single family housing in general, is slow, is in a buyer's market. However, if you're in the market of like under $2 million, or in this case, even under like $1.7 million, you're deep into the seller's market. So this is what I mean when I kept telling people, starter products that's ready to go is gonna sell the quickest and the hottest. You can see it right here from this chart. And the ones that is a little bit more expensive, it's going to really, really slow down. So as an example, let's go over $2.5 million. Let's see if anyone is buying this kind of stuff. we're at 4% for Richmond, 5% for East, Vancouver East, 2% for Burnaby, 2.5%, and 1.3% for Coquitlam. AKA luxury houses, I'm sorry, your market, dead. Very, very dead. Now, let's quickly shift into townhouses. If we look at all townhouses, you're looking at Vancouver East, Burnaby in the seller's market without even adjusting the price. Richmond, you're lagging behind, and Coquitlam, you're right in that almost seller's market mark. Now, of course, with this, we also want to do a couple of adjustments. What happens if we push it under $1 million? What happens if we go $1 million to 1.5? And what happens if we go north of $1.5 million? And I'm going to cancel that out because we don't need it. Okay, townhouses under $1 million. Look at that. Burnaby, seller's market. Pretty deep in the seller's market as well. And you have Richmond, Vancouver East, and Coquitlam all faring not bad. Quite good. With, of course, Coquitlam, you're just lagging a little bit behind, right? And of course, if we go for 1 to 1.5, look at this. Vancouver East, welcome to the seller's market. Burnaby, you're deep into the seller's market. Coquitlam, you're almost at the seller's market. And somehow Richmond, you perform worse in this price range, right? Now, a lot of people is going to ask at this point, Joe, that doesn't make any sense. Why would the sales and active ratio for townhouses under $1 million perform weaker than the stuff that's between 1 to 1.5? Well, what I guess I will say is if you're looking in Vancouver East and Burnaby for townhouses under $1 million, a lot of them need work. And that's where the market is one of the weakest if your home needs work. Or if your strata needs work, right? Because when you need to be selling at this kind of price point, is most likely going to be a older townhouse complex. And maybe they have some potential repairs that's coming up that needs to be discussed, right? And of course, lastly, if you're looking for something that's over $1.5 million, come on, let's crunch this number. Well, Vancouver East is doing not bad, right? For some odd reason, probably because of all the duplexes. But if you look at the other one, and Coquitlam is actually doing not too bad as well. But if you're looking at Richmond, and Burnaby doesn't even have townhouses over $1.5 million. This is most likely because of there's not a lot of inventory in this level, and these are what we call ultra luxury townhouses. Apartments, let's run the same exercise for these 4 cities. We have Vancouver East, not bad, almost at seller's market without adjusting any prices. Burnaby, Coquitlam, you're not bad. You're right in the what we call the balanced market. With Richmond, you're kind of lagging behind. So now let's start playing with some of these numbers. Let's go with 649 here. Let's go with 650 up to about 900. 900, and let's go from 900 up to 1. I'm just gonna go 650 to a million here, and I'm gonna go with $1 million and above. Okay. So if you're looking for a condo that's under $650,000, look at this beautiful chart. Welcome to the seller's market. Everything is over 20%. Is it sustained? For some, it's sustained. For some, it just popped into 20%. Now, if you're looking from 650 to a million, I would expect something similar, maybe even some outperforming under 650 because of that same thing that we talked about. Older condos, strata might not pan out, or the interior needs a lot of work. So let's take a look. Oh no, it dropped. Okay, good. So for anything that's under 650 to $1 million, all of a sudden your sales and active ratio drops. Look at Richmond. Holy, Richmond drops to about 9%. That's deep. And of course, you have your Vancouver East, Burnaby, and your Coquitlam all kind of faring relatively well. And then if you go over $1 million, check this out. Well, there's not even $1 million condo in Coquitlam, but look at this, 5%, 11%, 5%. That tells you exactly what you need to know in regards to the market. Now, let's just summarize this in generality. Number one, it seems like Richmond out of these 4 cities is performing the worst in regards all across the board, with really some competing quite closely with Coquitlam. The second thing you'll see is Vancouver East and Burnaby, especially Burnaby, is doing relatively well in regards to kind of how the market is floating around. So the way that you want to look at the Richmond market in comparison to the way that you want to look at the Burnaby market for some of these product types needs to be very, very different because they're acting very, very differently. I'm going to leave the next set for another video. That video, I'm going to focus on the Vancouver West side. I'm going to focus on the North Van, and I'm probably going to focus on the West Vancouver side as well. So this is kind of the exercise that we've been doing with my clients in regards to finding out, hey, like we can't just slap everything and expect everything to be exactly the same. Some of these markets are behaving very, very differently, and this is the perfect exercise and example to show you. So this is part one of the 2 parts that I'm going to be doing. I thank you so much for watching this. If you like what you see, stay, subscribe, stay, and I'll release the next portion of it very, very soon. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye now.